all your things out of my house.
I just don't understand. Why did he have to leave me like this?
The rain came down like it wanted to punish someone. It hammered against the high gates of the duplex in Magodo, sliding down the burglary-proof bars and pooling around my ankles. My wrapper was already soaked through. My phone was dead. And on the other side of that gate, behind the warm yellow light of the living room I had decorated with my own hands, my husband's mother stood with her arms folded, watching me through the glass. "You can sleep in the rain tonight," she shouted, loud enough that the security light flickered with her voice. "Maybe the cold will teach you respect." The deadbolt clicked shut. I stood there in the storm at 11:14 at night, my slippers floating in the dirty water, while 3 black trash bags filled with my clothes sat on the wet driveway beside me. My husband Obinna was inside. I saw his shadow move past the curtain once, then disappear. He never came to the door. And the woman in the red dress, the one Mama had been calling the proper wife, she laughed. I heard it through the glass, soft and sharp at the same time. They thought they had thrown me out of my life that night. But what none of them knew, what every single person inside that house had completely forgotten, was that the deed to that duplex, the certificate of occupancy, the original purchase agreement, all of it carried only one name. If you have ever been treated like you were nothing in a place you built with your own hands, comment, "I see you," before we continue. My name is Chidinma. People call me Chidi. To understand how I ended up standing in the rain that night, you have to go back 11 years, to a small face-my-face-you room in Surulere, where Obinna and I started with almost nothing. He was selling phone accessories then. I was a secondary school teacher with a side business plaiting hair on weekends. We had one mattress, one standing fan that only worked when the generator was on, and a dream so big it didn't fit in that room. I remember the smell of that place. Fried akara from the woman downstairs. The damp concrete after rain. The sound of Okada horns cutting through the morning before the sun was even fully up. We were poor. But we were warm. I was the one who kept the records. Obinna had ideas, plenty of ideas, but he could never sit still long enough to write anything down. So every naira that came in and went out passed through my notebook. The blue one with the bent cover. I still have it. When his accessories business grew into importing electronics, it was my teacher's salary that paid the rent during the slow months. When he wanted to register his company, it was my cousin who was a lawyer that handled the paperwork for free. When he traveled to Guangzhou for the first time, it was my savings, the money I had been keeping for a proper wedding, that bought half his ticket. I never complained. Not once. Because in those years, Obinna looked at me like I was the most important person in his world. He used to say, "Chidi, when we make it, everybody will know it was you." But people forget. That is the first thing you learn when money enters a marriage. People forget. The business exploded around our 6th year. Obinna's company started supplying electronics to big retailers across Lagos. Money came in faster than either of us had ever imagined. We moved out of Surulere. We bought cars. He started wearing watches that cost more than our old landlord made in a year. And somewhere in all of that, a problem started growing quietly in the background. Obinna had borrowed heavily to expand. Bank loans. Private investors. The kind of money that comes with men in dark glasses who do not like to be kept waiting. One evening my lawyer cousin, Barrister Uche, came to visit. He sat Obinna down at the dining table and spoke to him in the serious voice family members use when money is involved. "Obinna," he said, "your debts are heavy. If anything goes wrong with the business, the creditors can come after everything, including any house you buy." The room was quiet. Only the hum of the air conditioner and the soft tick of the wall clock. "So what do I do?" Binna asked. Uche tapped the table twice. "Buy the family house in Chidi's name. Completely separate from the company. If your business ever crashes, they cannot touch it. It becomes the one thing your wife and children can always fall back on." Obinna laughed at the time. "Crash. My business will never crash." But he agreed. Course he agreed. It cost him nothing and it protected him. So when we bought the duplex in Magodo, A beautiful 4-bedroom with a garden. Obinna swore he would never let me touch. Every document was prepared in my name. The certificate of occupancy, the deed of assignment, the survey, the receipts, all of it. I signed everywhere. Obinna barely glanced at the papers. He was already on the phone with a supplier. Just keep them somewhere safe, he told me, waving his hand. Lawyer talk. We'll never need it. Kept them safe. Kept everything safe. And then, slowly, everyone forgot whose name was on that house. Including me. The mother-in-law arrived in our 4th year in Magodo. Mama Obinna was not always cruel. In the beginning she was simply cold. She would visit, inspect my cooking, sigh at my furniture, and leave small comments behind like broken glass on the floor. A teacher's daughter trying to run a big man's house. In my time, a real wife would have given my son a son by now. Had 2 daughters. Beautiful, brilliant girls. But to Mama, daughters were a kind of failure. I swallowed every insult. I told myself it was the African way. That a good wife endures. That silence was strength. But silence, I would learn, can also be a slow poison. Then she came. Her name was Adiz, but everyone called her Ada. She was the daughter of one of Obinna's new business partners. Young, polished. The kind of woman who carried herself like she had never once washed her own clothes. The first time she came to the house, it was for a business dinner. Mama cooked specially. Mama laughed at all her jokes. Mama looked at her with a warmth she had never once shown me. Now this, Mama said, loud enough for me to hear from the kitchen, is the kind of girl who knows how to take care of a successful man. I dropped a plate that night. It shattered on the kitchen floor. And as I bent down to pick up the pieces, my hands shaking, I had the strangest feeling. Like I was already picking up the broken pieces of something much bigger than a plate. What would you have done if you were me? Comment below. The disrespect grew like floodwater. Slowly, then all at once. Obinna started coming home late. Then not at all. His phone, which used to lie open on the table, now lived in his pocket, screen down. Ada started appearing at events I should have attended. People sent me photos. Friends I thought were friends. Is this not your husband? They would write, with a single laughing emoji that cut deeper than any words. At home, Mama treated me like a tenant who had stopped paying rent. This food is too salty. Why are these children always making noise? In my son's house, we do things a certain way. My son's house. I remember the exact day she said those words. I was standing in the kitchen I had designed, beside the marble counter I had personally chosen from a showroom in Lekki, paying with a bonus from my own teaching promotion. My son's house. And I, the fool, said nothing. I just turned back to the stove and kept stirring the egusi, watching the oil rise to the top, golden and silent. Something inside me had started to bend that day. I could feel it. Like a tree in a storm, leaning so far it was almost ready to break. But I did not know yet that the storm itself was still coming. The night they locked me out started with a quarrel about nothing. I had asked Obinna, gently, in our bedroom with the door closed, whether the rumors about Ada were true. He didn't even deny it. "Chitty," he said, loosening his tie, not even looking at me. "You have become old. Tired. You smell like chalk and children. Ada understands the world I live in now. You don't." I stood frozen. 11 years. 11 years of my salary, my savings, my notebook, my sacrifice, reduced to "you smell like chalk." I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, Mama burst into the room. She must have been listening at the door. She always listened at doors. "So you are now interrogating my son in his own house," she shouted. "After everything he has done for you. Pulling you up from that gutter in Surulere." "Mama," I said quietly, "I helped build." "You helped nothing," she screamed. "You are a parasite. Teacher who married money. Get out. Get out of my son's house tonight." I looked at Obinna. I looked at the man I had loved since I was 24, the man whose ticket I bought, whose company I funded, whose records I kept in a blue notebook with a bent cover. And he looked away. That was the moment. Not the shouting. Not the insult. The looking away. The silence said everything. The rain had already started by the time they pushed me toward the door. Mama and one of the housemaids gathered my clothes into trash bags while Ada sat on my sofa, in my living room, sipping wine from my glasses, watching like it was a film. Binna stayed upstairs. "Take your rags and go back to where you came from," Mama said, opening the front door so the cold rain blew inside. "And don't think of coming back. By morning, Ada will be sleeping in your place." The deadbolt clicked shut behind me at 11:14 p.m. I stood in the storm. The water rose past my slippers. Lightning lit up the garden I had planted, the frangipani tree I watered every single morning before school. Thunder rolled over Magodo like the sky itself was angry on my behalf. Had no phone, no money on me, no car keys. I walked to the gate and the security man, Malam Sani, an old man who had worked for us for years, opened the small side door for me without a word. But in his eyes I saw something. Not pity. Something else. "Madam," he whispered as I passed, "you are a good woman. God sees." I walked out into the dark, soaked to the bone, and stood under the awning of a closed pharmacy 2 streets away, shivering, watching the rain fall under the streetlight. And it was there, somewhere around 2 in the morning, cold and broken and emptied of every tear I had, that a single thought floated up from the bottom of my memory. Quiet. Mull. Almost laughable. The house is in my name. I stood up straight. The house is in my name. For the first time that whole night I stopped shaking. By morning the rain had stopped. A kind woman who sold provisions had let me sit inside her tiny shop near dawn. She gave me a wrapper to change into and a cup of hot tea that I held with both hands like it was the only warm thing left in the world. The steam rose into my face. Outside Lagos was waking up. Conductors shouting. Buses honking. Generators coughing to life one after another. Life outside continued as normal. But inside me something had shifted. I borrowed her phone and made one call. "Barrister Uche," I said when my cousin picked up, my voice steadier than I expected. "I need every document for the Magodo house. The C of O. A deed. The receipts. All of it." There was a pause on the line. "Chitty," he said slowly. "What happened?" "They locked me out last night," I said. "In the rain. They told me the house belongs to Obinna and his mother." Another pause. And then my cousin, who almost never laughed, let out one short, dry sound. "Chitty," he said, "do they not remember whose name